Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here, breaking down FBS power rankings, heading into week 3. Let's make something crystal clear. These are not our opinions. These are rankings we have compiled from 10 different sources, 8 computers, 2 human rankings that we respected. We have averaged them. We see what it spits out. We make no judgment. We just tell you what it says. And Blake, here's an interesting thing to start. Alabama remains the number 1 team by about that much over Georgia in our composite rankings. Crimson Tide 1, Bulldogs 2.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked by that. I just think it's the team that stays at number one, and I think that's kind of looking at the data. Probably, I assume that's a big part of it. Is just they did win their game. I know it it felt like a loss probably to some people that they didn't win by enough. But when your biggest flaw, I guess, is not winning by enough, you're still in a pretty good position. And I think that's where, like for Alabama, I'm not surprised to see them again, compiling all of these rankings together. In our Southeastern 14 rankings, we had Georgia 1 and we moved Alabama to 2. But these are completely different. Like you said, these are compiling 8 different computer rankings, 2 human rankings, and putting that all together. So I can't say I'm shocked about that. So,
yeah, and I'll have you pull up if Better wants to see how they're written out. We've got that at our site at southeastern14.com. So you can see other teams outside the SEC. That's where we're going to spend most of our attention. But coming in at number 7, the Tennessee Vols. Again, these are not our opinions. This is just what the computers and the human rankings spit out. Vols high ranking of 5 and low of, 16. Low ranking is FEI and Pro Football Focus. High ranking, Phil Steele actually has the Vols at 5 this week. A little bit of a gap between Tennessee and Oklahoma, between 5 and 6. The computers have a pretty clear top 4 and then a pretty clear 5 and 6 in Clemson and Oklahoma. But very interesting to see Tennessee rise up the rankings after a really good win at Pitt.
yeah, I mean, like we said, there have been people that have been higher on Tennessee. I'm one of those people that kind of in the preseason said that I could certainly see this team making a push into the top 15, something like that, pretty soon. And yeah, I mean, here they are, like you said, it's 7 in these composite rankings. And I mean, again, I think it's the expectations were high coming the season. Everybody thought it was just sort of another one of those years. Maybe Tennessee's ranked too highly. We don't have a lot to go on this far. We only got 2 games, but yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly what they've done to this point. No reason to push them anywhere but up in the rankings, and I assume that's what's happened here in a lot of these, like you said, different computer rankings. So
another thing that shocked me, Penn State coming in right after Tennessee at 8 overall. Of course, the Nittany Lions, a topic of conversation in SEC country as James Franklin's team goes to Auburn this week. We'll get to Auburn. They are way down from Penn State in the countdown in a game that's a field goal game. And it's interesting to see the diversity of opinion on these. Again, some things that I disagree with, but these are just averages of sources we trust, and that's what they're spitting out. Number 10, Kentucky. High of 6, low of 22. High man on the Vols, Pro Football Focus, and The Athletic. Lowest ranking, ESPN's FPI. And not long after this is where we get to a bunch of SEC teams together. You've got Arkansas at 14, Mississippi State at 15, Ole Miss at 16. Arkansas ranked as high as 7 by The Athletic, as low as 32 by ESPN's FEI. Or excuse me, that's not ESPN's. That's the Fresnel Efficiency Index. Mississippi State, 9 is a high, 28 is a low. The Athletic lower on State than anybody. ESPN's FPI had State all the way up at 9. And Ole Miss, 6 in SP plus is the high, 29 in The Athletic is the low. This was a theme last week too, Blake. SEC teams just bunched right together. And by the way, there's another group coming, although they're a little more spread out as we go further down. But yeah, Lot of SEC West congestion here.
Yeah, once again, I mean, in our power rankings for the week, we had Arkansas as the third best team, but as you mentioned, Tennessee, in terms of the composite rankings here, took that spot. Kentucky would take the fourth spot, and Arkansas would be at fifth. But like we said, I mean, you look at just different opinions on this, and I think the Ole Miss one to me is still kind of interesting because I think there's 16 to me seems high for a team, like we said, that we just don't really know a whole lot about just yet. But again, it's also based on where you start, right? And they've done nothing but win their first two games. So it's not like you could say, oh, well, maybe they haven't been what I thought they'd be, and I'm just going to drop them out of the. I mean, they've convincingly beat Central Arkansas. They beat Troy by what, 18. So, yeah, I think that's just, I still think for me, there's a gap between these top five and maybe the next part of this group, unless there's somebody I'm forgetting somewhere. But I think I don't know that I would have Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss that close together right now. I think I would, like I said, maybe put a little bit of a line between Mississippi State and Ole Miss. But again, that's not unexpected because we said coming into the season we didn't think we know what Ole Miss would necessarily be until several weeks into the season. So that's not it's not an indictment on Ole Miss. It's just kind of think what we've seen thus far, that's kind of the way I would look at it. So,
well, we got a big gap between this group and the next team. Before that, quick shout out to our sponsor, Steaks. We got some big games coming up this week to add some extra excitement. We at Southeastern 14 have made some predictions in the Stakes app. We've got at least 2 up on every SEC game. We want to hear from you guys if you agree or disagree with our takes. So go to playwithstakes.com/14. Stakes is STAKES. Sign up for Stakes. Place your prediction on our question. Use the invite code Southeastern14 when you sign up. You'll get a double welcome bonus. Again, everything free. It's for bragging rights. You can actually win some stuff. So no downside here. You don't lose any money, and you get a chance to win things for free, and we love it. They're a lot of fun. Okay, taking a tumble, Texas A&M all the way down to 26th this week nationally. SP Plus still has the Aggies at 9. Kenneth Massey's got A&M all the way down at 43. Massey has some weird things in his rankings at times, and I think he does them. It seems to me like he weights current performance and throws out any expectations he had for a team coming into the season almost out the window 3 weeks in.
by the way, I don't disagree with that because I
Yeah.
don't think putting Texas A&M at 43 is
Yeah.
by any means way out there. I think you could certainly put them in that area based on what we've seen.
I think so far is a more accurate representation of A&M than what everybody thought coming in.
Yeah.
And that's one reason we have some different rankings in here is people go about these and computers go about these very differently. And so once you throw them all together, get an average, you get some real variations. But anyway, I think that I don't think A&M right now is a top 25 team, and it would be 26th in our composite. So, yeah. All right. Next, another team that took a big tumble, Florida all the way down to 31. Gators a high of 15 at the Athletic, a low of 61 at Phil Steele. My goodness. And Pro Football Focus also had the Gators at 50. Pro Football Focus is another one that's kind of an outlier. That and Massey are the two that I think I find to be the outliers on more of these teams. But, yeah, interesting to see Florida has fallen out of the top 25 here.
Yeah. Like we said, it's kind of one of those things where I know we all have our different opinions on Florida, but I've kind of said that I'm not ready to write them off after, a win over a top 10 team and a loss over to a top 10 team. But again, play's got to be better. But yeah, I like you said, I think that low of 61, I feel like that's too far for Florida down there. But listen, who am I to question Phil Steele? Because the man knows what he's talking about. So I'm not going to sit here and ramble on and call him out on anything. But yeah, I would have him higher, like I mentioned. And we said that in our actual Southeastern 14 power rankings. I had Florida higher than anybody this week just because I'm not ready. And again, you're talking to somebody who wasn't that high on him coming into the season, but I think after that Utah win, you saw some things, and then to lose to Kentucky, I feel like they'll still be okay. So 31 to me, that's about right, maybe.
Coming up next at 34, LSU, high of 12. My goodness. FPI still got LSU at 12. Low of 54. That is CBS, which is a human ranking. And then the next team, we get the Auburn Tigers at 38. Again, big variation of opinion here. Auburn as high as 17 and FEI as low as 60 in Jeff Sagarin. That was a little jarring to see Sagarin having Auburn that low and a little surprising. But yeah, this is where we start to see some separation. And by the way, we saw it too in our personal power rankings we did in the SEC right along these lines too.
I was gonna say these are the teams that, like we mentioned, we still don't know exactly where to place them. So for them to be in these spots, I can't pick much of an argument with, because it's just I don't know what to make of LSU yet. I don't know what to make of Auburn yet. Even Florida to an extent. So yeah, so not surprised to kind of see them in this range, given that all of these teams were hovering, around that, I guess, top 30 for a lot of people heading into the season, something like that, and just still don't have a great feel on where they are. But this week will be a good measure for several of these teams, to say the least.
Okay, another team that took a tumble, South Carolina down to 52. Not as huge a diversity of opinion on the Gamecocks. 41 the high, that is team rankings. And the low for Carolina is 63. That's Pro Football Focus. Then we have another pretty good drop to Missouri at 64. High rank on Missouri is 58. That coming by SP Plus. Low is 79. That is coming again at Phil Steele. And then the last team in our countdown, this team took a little bit of a dip too after a 20-point home loss to Wake Forest, and that is Vanderbilt. And why can't I find the Commodores here?
91.
91. Okay, the Vanderbilt 91, high of 76, low of 99. So everybody has got Vandy inside the top 100. That was not the case in preseason, but not a ton of diversity of opinion on the Commodores. Now, Blake, just for interest, if you go to the bottom of that article that you pulled up, and again, you can get it at southeastern14.com, we've got the top 10 in standard deviation, which is kind of an interesting thing that we put. There's no SEC teams in there, but it's just very interesting to see how teams are sized up at different places. Coastal Carolina, the team with the most variation. James Madison, the only new team to the FBS this season at number 2. And you see more Power 5 teams in there than you did a week ago. You've got Duke in there. You got Washington State coming off a big upset of Wisconsin. You got USC, which I think some of the rankings with USC are a little wonky right now. I think, again, it's that preseason bias thing, and what you expected is causing some noise. That's probably going to even out. And Kansas, another team that's kind of outperformed. So I like to do that just to see where everybody's opinion is, and the teams where there's the most diversity of opinion. We do that every week. We do the top 10 in standard deviation. So we did that last week. We'll do it again. Blake, any parting thoughts on our composite 131? And again, these are not our rankings. This is a composite we have compiled of respected sources. Don't always agree with it, but we publish it because we find it interesting to see what everybody thinks.
Send your hate mail to the computers, not to us. No, but in all
I mean,
seriousness,
you can send it to us if it makes you feel better, but we may not read it.
Directed towards the computers and the bots. If you want our power rankings, you can get those. They're up for this week, so you can check those out. They're actually should be at the top of your, if you're a subscriber, you'll see it as the very first video that pops up on the channel. So you can check that out if you haven't checked out our composite staff rankings, which again are a little bit different than what you saw from the composite rankings we just went through. So be sure to check that out. And as always, if you're watching this on Wednesday, live stream coming 9 p.m. Eastern Wednesday nights, you will get all of us talking about the week 3 action and talking about rankings, I'm sure, and picking games and bets and all that stuff. So jump on in there, and it's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll have a ton of fun with that tonight. Be sure to hit the subscribe button for our channel. We're picking up subs quickly. People are finding us and figuring out we're worth watching. We hope you find us, come back, and agree that we're worth watching too. A lot of people have joined. We've had we've added 800 people in the last month alone, I think, at least. So anyway, I'll quit rambling. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon at Southeastern 14.